Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Across the Pitch with myself, Dave Miller, and Mike Pereira. How you doing, Mike?
I am fantastic, Dave. You know why I'm fantastic? Because tomorrow the Philadelphia Union play a game that actually
Yeah,
matters. It counts. I'm excited.
yeah. And people can actually watch the game. I mean, obviously the preseason games weren't actually live streamed, so it's actually good to be able to see the team back out there again for the regular season debut against the Minnesota United. And it's going to be a huge game, and I'm sure a Subaru Park will be packed to the rafters. But before we go into the show, Mike, the sponsors.
Yes, let's get the sponsors out of the way, and then we can get to the fun and nitty gritty stuff. First up, we have Manscaped. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code AATBirds at manscaped.com. Next, we have OddsJam, the number one software platform for sportsbook bandits. They use an arbitrage calculator and more, so you never lose a bet again at oddsjam.com. Following that, we have Statement Games, statementgames.com for a fun new way to fantasy sports and entertainment. Win gift cards and prizes. It's free to sign up at statementgames.com. La Terrain Watches, LaTerrain.com. Use code AATBird for 10% off at checkout. And then lastly, Dave, we have the AAT Sports Shop /shop, AATSportsNetwork.com/shop for all the gear across the pitch. My other show, Brera's Bucket, Burning Bridges, Chip stuff, Johnny's stuff, a lot of cool stuff. But
Yeah.
without further ado, Dave, continue with the show.
But obviously, it's a big weekend. Obviously, the Union are finally back in action after, I think, about 2.5 months. I would say about 2.5 months. I would think was the playoff game in January or the start of January or
It
end
was
of December?
December. It was December
Yeah,
15th, I
mid-December.
believe. It was a very
Feels such
short
a long
off
time
season,
ago.
though, Dave.
Yeah,
It,
I
it
think that's
does feel
been
like a long time ago. Yes.
yeah. I think it's been one of the weird things about the this season is the fact that they're going to go with such a long break in terms of from when the season starts. I think last year it started I think the season started in May time after finishing in about January, so they had about 3, 4, 5 months off, and
Mm.
now they're coming into the new season literally off 2 months, and they're going to have to fill. I think it's about a 9 month season. I think they're going or 8 month season. They're going up until September, October time for the
Y-
World Cup.
Yes, it seems like it will be a very long year again. But the good thing is, as we kind of discussed already before the season began, was the fact that we're kind of getting rid of those midweek games. Those Wednesday
Yeah,
games will be a bit few and far between. On top of that, we no longer have the CONCACAF Champions League to worry about. So
no,
the onslaught of us covering games on top of watching games will be kind of reduced to a minimum, which is nice because we have lives outside of the union that we try to keep
yeah,
to. Um, but besides that, I will at times miss though waking up on a Wednesday morning knowing that they're going to play. So it's it's a give and take with their scheduling. But you were fortunate enough to speak with Coach Curtin this past Thursday, I believe.
yep.
Can you share your thoughts on what you learned from Curtin? And we have some news tonight as well regarding Mikael Ua.
But obviously the I think sort of the two sort of standout points in the press conference is obviously that Uar was coming to the country. He's now officially in the country. He's in his hotel. I believe Joe Tanzi reported it.
Yes,
I
Tansy
believe
put
yeah,
it out.
Joe Tanzi reported that he's actually in the country. He's in Philadelphia. I highly doubt he'll be eligible to play this weekend. Not
He
tomorrow.
they said he's going to train starting Monday. I
Yeah,
would assume he's just on the bench Saturday, maybe saying hi to some fans, walking around. I would be shocked if he played, considering the sudden turnover of landing, getting yourself situated with the time difference, that kind of stuff. So,
yeah.
but either way, yeah, continue with what else Coach Curtin had to say.
Based in the country. Obviously, Sergio Santos is going through the visa
Mhm.
process as well. He's currently in Chile, waiting to get that all sorted. Obviously, Corey Burke's back in the country. Jack Elliott is 100% fit. He will be good to go tomorrow as well. Obviously, Jim spoke about Minnesota. We'll get on to them in a bit, just how strong the team they are, what to look out for. That they're a well coached team and they're well structured. They've got talented players that can hurt teams in the transition of countering and moving up the field. Especially Manuel Reynosa, who he highlighted as one of the key players, and he also sort of linked Gazdag in some of their players. We sort of said like they had a lot of new players last year who were new to the MLS, and essentially, they what's it called? Sort of they had to adjust. It took them time to adjust, and this year those sort of players are going to be more dangerous because they're more accustomed to the league and more accustomed to the conditioning and the way that teams play. So I think he's admitted that there'll be another tough aspect for the game. And obviously, I managed to ask him a question about obviously Gazdag coming in. Well, Gazdag now playing a more prominent role because Jamiro Montero's left. That opens up. Well, it means he's going to have to do more work in the attacking area because it's going to be quite. I can envision it being very frustrating at times if they end up going for the diamond with the midfield and Martinez, Holding, Bedoya, Flack, and Gazdag. He's going to get isolated a lot. So I sort of said, like, look, how important is he going to be? How prominent is he going to be in this attacking round? Sort of Jim said the team is essentially going to go through him. They want to get him on the ball as much as possible, get him to do as much as he can to get the team forward and do things such as that. But again, he also alluded to the same point he used again with the Minnesota United team, well, players, and said, look, he's going to come here. It was similar to Daniel last year. It took him time to adjust, took him time to get into the groove of things. But I think we all saw towards the end of last year, especially in the postseason, that Daniel Gazdag was there to play. He was featuring heavily in the Union attacks, making key contributions. And this year he's going to take that extra step. And I think Jim's expecting that, and he's confident that Daniel can do that.
Well, yeah, think that when he came in last year, he was coming off the time he already had spent with his former club. He had received an injury when he played for the Euros, so he had just gone through a long schedule to begin with. And on top of that, as he highlighted, and as we've mentioned before, Daniel had issues with the speed of the MLS and getting acquainted and accustomed with it. But
Yeah.
If you guys missed last week's episode, I was fortunate enough to be joined by Jamie Moore from Quake's Epicenter. And we were talking about the Jamiro trade, and as the week has gone by, I've kind of thought more about the interview, and I watched it again a couple times just to kind of get a feel for it. And as you mentioned the Gazdag situation tonight, and the great question you asked for Jim, it really kind of dawned to me like Jamiro was an important part of that pairing last year.
Yeah.
You can think of that one goal, and excuse me, I don't remember exactly where this goal happened. I know it was on the road, but Jamiro receives the ball at the top of the box. He shoots out to the corner to Daniel Gazdag, who puts it beautifully in the back of the net from about 18 to 20 yards out. If anybody remembers that game, please tell me where, because I can't think of it right now. I believe that was the game he scored 2 goals, if I remember correctly. So
was that the Minnesota game?
Oh, was it the Minnesota? It feels like it was a Minnesota game, so it may have been. But you're losing that comfortability from with Daniel and Jamiro.
Yeah.
And I mean, yes, you can argue now that you have Carranza and Sergio up top. Perhaps that might be the creativity that he needs compared to having Casper up there, or the talent around him that he might need. So sure, maybe that kind of relieves that pressure, but he was getting more and more comfortable in that particular 4-3-2-1 formation. Now they're going back to the diamond. So
Yeah.
I'm very curious to see how Daniel adapts to the new players, Mikael and Carranza, as well as how well Leon Flock improves. Because now, as much as Jim wants to push to Daniel and wants to have him be the focus, more responsibility comes onto Leon to be a better offensive player and be almost a facilitator at times, rather than just turning it around, passing it back to Kai and kind of hoping for the best.
Yeah.
I
think perhaps the moving Montero perhaps makes somewhat makes you feel that perhaps they have that confidence in Leon, or they've seen enough in Leon in the preseason training that he can take that step forward. I think Jim alluded to that in an earlier press conference that obviously Leon's a young player. He's not the finished article. Again, I think people forget he's 20, 21 years old.
he's a kid.
So again, he's far from the finished product. But I think I think he sort of alluded to as well at one point that his attacking input has improved. Whether it's it's noticeable or not, but he sort of seems like his attacking input has improved. He's more dangerous going up, a bit more dangerous up the field. So who knows? It's a weird one because I feel like Leon Flock, when last year, whenever he put in like a good cross or he actually delivered a good ball, no one was ever there to get on the end of it.
That's true too.
Every time the penalty area was packed, or he'd end up putting a ball in. So I think for him, it's having that luck and also consistency as well. I think, and again, obviously Jim spoke really highly of Julian Carranza as well, and I think he has Obviously, it's sort of managerial talk. You're going to back your players in the press conference, but he believes that the goals will come for him. He'll score. He's a natural goal scorer. He can do this. He can do that. So I think Jim is evidently preparing for Carranza at front on the zone on tomorrow night or tomorrow evening, tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah,
What
there's a
time
lot.
zone you're in?
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of expectations for Carranza. I don't know. I don't know if it's the hype that they've been kind of surrounding him with.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see him. I posted a same game parlay tonight on Twitter, and I'll actually you know reveal the odds for everybody if they're curious on tailing it. So I did a 3-pick same game parlay on DraftKings. It was a Philadelphia Union money line, which was like about minus 125 or so. The over 1.5 total goals for the game, and then Carranza as the anytime goal scorer. I think he was about maybe fourth or fifth on the list for the goal scorer. That ended up being like a plus 235 payout. So
yeah,
not too bad of a parlay, nothing overly
no,
crazy, but enough to give you a nice lunch the next day. Um, but I think the expectation is that Carranza will score or should score a goal. Do you think that's fair expectations? Like, are people kind of overhyping him? Because I mean, to be frank, he really hasn't proven himself yet. That's the thing is I feel like there's
yeah.
so much on his plate that we don't know yet.
I think I agree with the fact that there's so much to what's the word, sort of so much in the air. What can he do? Is he, is he going to be this prolific striker? Is he just not given the chance? So I think there'll be a lot of question marks. Of course, I mean, we know the Philadelphia Union fan base now. It's strikers, even if they do score, they're not good enough. So I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of high expectations coming into the game tomorrow. And obviously, I think everyone would like to see Kwanzaa get off the mark, score a goal. But I think tomorrow, if he ends up going into the game, produces a good, solid performance, does everything that Jim says, holds the ball up, gets other people into the play, attacks the difficult spaces and positive areas, causes himself to be a real nuisance, brings players like Gazdag, Leon Flack, and even the fullbacks into the game. And, it's just an outlet for the team. I think that'll be a positive in itself because it shows that there's a player in there. And, once I think that could also be very useful, especially with a player like Uar alongside them, who's clearly coming in to be the goal scorer. If Kwanzaa can, be that useful sort of second-hand man that does all the dirty work, chips in the occasional goal, and then you have Uar, feeding off all the scraps and, sort of taking the glory for all of his hard work and things such as that consistently. And I think that could be an exciting and solid strike partnership. But again, I think tomorrow you will see the natural comments are, "Oh, it's Carranza guy. Why did we bring him in? He can't even score. He can't even score." Things like that. So I think, obviously you're going to get those sort of reactions. But yeah, I think as long as he shows a positive performance and plays well, I don't think there'll be too. For me, I don't think there'll be too many complaints.
No, I don't think so either, especially considering we don't really have many options right now. I
Yeah,
would say, I mean, realistically speaking, let's say, Uaz is training on Monday. I mean, do you foresee him playing a starter position on the following week? Or do you think
no,
he comes off the bench? I feel like he won't be starting for at least two
couple of weeks.
matches,
Yeah,
right? So a couple matches. Um, so after Minnesota, we head off to Montreal, which I know many people have been saying look kind of dangerous right now. And
yeah,
then you have San Jose coming to Philly. And like I said, as I talk to Jamin Moore from Quake's Epicenter, they are retooled and ready to roll, and they could very well come into Philly and pull off a win or at least
yeah,
a draw. So, Dave, historically speaking, I've been a Philadelphia Union fan since 2012. So we're looking on 10 years now for me.
yeah.
The Union have not been a team that typically starts out very good. And as we saw this a bit last year as well, they don't typically have a good start.
No,
You have a lot of expectations. And even though there's been a bit more positivity now with, Mikael being in the country and Burke getting his green card and Sergio being more healthy than I mean, is this a game that you have to win to kind of get the ball rolling? Do you feel like a draw is good enough with the expectations you have for the year from the fan base's standpoint, not from the objective standpoint, but from the fan base?
I mean, every single game you're going to get people complaining and moaning that the team hasn't won or it's not good enough. But I think it'd be interesting to see. Because I sort of feel like there's always a scapegoat in the team. I mean, you see on Twitter last year it was Casper in points. Um, yeah, what's up, Peanut?
What's up, man?
Large points last year it was Casper.
Hmm.
Points as well. Players like Olivier Bizo, Ali Bedoya was seen as. I mean, we slated Ali Bedoya a lot last year. I think at points he did deserve some of the criticism, but again, a lot of players will. It'll be interesting to see if they don't win or if they struggle, who will be that sort of scapegoat. I think that always happens at a club. I think again you'll see the scapegoat people. I mean, it's Philadelphia sports. I mean, come on, we're gonna have overreactions. I mean, if they don't win the first game, but I think again, I think if you can just get off the mark with a positive result, come out there, looking solid. Don't forget Minnesota are no bugs themselves. They came, I think, fourth or fifth in a very, very strong Western Conference last year.
Yeah, they made a push
Um,
towards the end, and they fell to Portland Timbers by a score of 3-1 in the first round. So that I mean, they
yeah,
are coming off a season where now they come back this year and expect to improve overall.
actually, I was gonna say, I think they got to the Western Conference semi-finals, which I think's two games in.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
So I mean, they have expectations there as well. I mean, as we saw from last year when we went to their home arena. I mean, it's not necessarily a team that you expect to just walk over. It's just
yeah,
an interesting first game. I know we've played Toronto before in the first opening match. It's not. I didn't expect Minnesota to be on the list
yeah,
for for a first home opponent, which I guess maybe it might be a good and a bad thing. They're not familiar with us either. It's kind of that unknown for both parties.
yeah,
Um, Whereas, you welcome in New England Revolution or the Red Bulls or whoever it might be, you kind of have that more of that familiarity where anything can happen. As especially with the Red Bulls, as you see time and time again, they come into this stadium like we saw in the playoff game and just chaos. Every time we play them, it's a chaotic match. So maybe that goes well for the Union. They have an unfamiliar foe kind of come into their stadium to start the year.
yeah. I think again it's an unfamiliar thing, but I think again it's interesting that again, I think it's going to be a bit of a culture shock to the Union because you go 2 years essentially just playing in the Eastern Conference. You're just playing in the east of the country. You don't have to travel as far. It's going over to California or going up to the southwest of Canada. But
Hmm.
now this year, I think they're going to have that challenge. And I think if you look at the table, there's a lot of East and Western Conference games going on this weekend. So it's going to be get Austin versus Cincinnati. Uh, trying to have a look. San Jose and Red Bulls, FC Dallas, Toronto, Columbus, Vancouver. There's a lot of East and West Conference games, and I think there's going to be a lot more. I think that'll be interesting to see how the home team does. I think especially in these East and West Conference games, the home team is usually the one that comes out on top because, again, the distance, the different climates, the different air pressures and things such as that. They do play a big impact, especially in this sort of league. So I think it's going to be interesting to see, not just in the Union game tomorrow, although I think Minnesota is a bit closer to Philadelphia, but in general, just to see what how this East versus West thing comes, how the what the sort of split is, because I think if you look at the MLS results, so for a lot of years, I'll say I think the MLS is the hardest league to win on the road. So
Yeah. Well, when you
because
look
of
at
the yeah,
because of the travel, and I was about to say, when you look at the first week, like you mentioned, kind of some weird pairings. You have the Red Bulls starting their season at San Jose,
yeah,
which is unfortunate for them. I actually would kind of be curious to see what the line is for that game. I'm about to pull that up right now. Um, because I mean, for one, I guess it's a good chance to watch that game and maybe see what San Jose is all about. But
yeah,
Jameer Montero will not be available most likely for that game. I don't think he will play that
okay,
match. Maybe he'll play a few minutes here or there since he's only gotten there about
yeah,
a week and a half ago. Um, but in terms of their schedule, I mean, that's a hard way to start the season, going out all the way on the West Coast, and then for them when they come back to their next game, it is on March 5th against Toronto. So
yeah,
they travel to Toronto after that, and then they host Minnesota. So you have two games for the Red Bulls. You go across the country to San Jose, and then you go back into Canada to play Toronto. Um, it's not necessarily a good start for them. So I can definitely see them starting 0-2, and then they host Minnesota. So I mean, maybe the Red Bulls might have a slow start to the season, and then Columbus after that, which is great for us. Hey, I'm not complaining. I mean, I hope they have a hard schedule to start off.
yeah. No, absolutely. I don't know. It's a weird. I just hopefully the Union can come out and win. I think that's the most important thing. They can come out and win this game. Um, looking convincing as well. Because I think there were a lot of games last year, especially the second half of the year. I know the Union, end up finishing the season strong. But there weren't many wins during that stretch where you looked at them and thought, "Oh yeah, they're looking really strong here." Like I think the early season indicator isn't going to be the home form. I think it's going to be how they do on the road. Because if they struggle
Hmm.
on the road, I mean, again, as I said, it's one of the hardest leagues to win in. But if you want to be successful, if you want to be one of the top teams in the MLS, you have to win at least a few games on the road.
At
And
least draw a lot of them. Yeah. Hmm.
but winning one game between the end of the season and trying to find where it is, because crikey, I think May was the last time they won a road game. So winning
Oh,
one
you talking about
game.
last year? They went through a
So last
long
year, yeah.
stretch. Yeah, they went through a very long stretch of playing poorly on the road. So I guess that kind of segues to the one question I want to ask you, Dave. It's almost like preseason for any like for a football team, or the first 4 weeks for a football team. It's very hard to determine the team's legitimate future projection from that first couple games because everybody's
Yeah.
kind of getting the rust off, the chemistry is building. But regardless, you still want to see a few things. What are some things you're focusing on today? Because for me personally, when I see this game tomorrow, I want those mental mistakes to be few and far between.
Yeah.
Because as you saw last year, that was the big killer. Even at home, it wasn't just on the road, but even at home, they had those mental miscues. I don't want to say it, but Olivier was probably one of the guys who probably had them the most. For me personally, I want to see a clean game from top to bottom, defensively speaking, as best as they can. I know it's the first game of the season. How about you? What are you kind of looking for tomorrow?
I want to see decisiveness in attack, a bit of confidence, to take a risk. We saw all too often last year where they got themselves in good positions and they just refused to either shoot, they refused to cross. And, I just want to see some decisiveness, a bit of confidence, with, Kyle or Olivier running down that wing and they've got a great opportunity to put it across and Carranza's one-on-one with his defender. Try it, try and aim the ball for him. If it doesn't pay off, it doesn't pay off, so be it. Give Carranza the opportunity to go one-on-one with his defender and try and, out jump him, win the header. If the ball's on the edge of the box and sets up nicely to shoot, just shoot. Don't dilly-dally and piss around, turn out and pass it back or go out. Shoot. The opportunity is on, shoot. If it goes 20 yards over the goal, it goes 20 yards over the goal. I mean, it just shows that you're willing to shoot and it puts the goalkeeper more on his toes. It allows again, it creates questions, especially if I don't know what the weather's meant to be like tomorrow, but if it's a wet day, just shoot from distance if you can. Trust the goalkeeper, see how he's dealing with the turf and with the ball, a wet ball or whatever. Um, it's gonna cause the
Thanks,
goalkeeper
Adam.
issues. Cheers, Adam. But I mean, like, again, just be confident with what you do in attack. Put crosses in when you're meant to. Attack, shoot with the opportunity to present itself. Because we even saw it in like really good positions last year, where like I think the one that stands out is the Bedoya one against I think it was New England Revolution, where he was literally 5 yards out from the goal, and instead of shooting, he turned around and
Oh,
passed it. It was sort of like
he pulled a
just
Ben
shoot.
Simmons. He pulled a Ben Simmons. Yeah.
He pulled a Ben Simmons, and it happens way too often. It's a massive issue when in this team that the only midfielder and forward that is confident enough to shoot from outside the area is Jose Martinez. I know people
Yes.
moan again. I'm going back to the same old argument I always pull, but I'd rather see someone just have a go and shoot when you're not shooting and you're doing absolutely fuck all with the ball in attacking positions. We saw it so often last year where they're getting good crossing positions, good shooting positions, and they just start passing around in useless triangles and lose the ball. I'd rather just have a shot. I'd rather just shoot than have a piss around in the corner and do nothing. I'd rather just
Well,
shoot. At least you're having a go.
I think one problem that people had last year, or one complaint, was that the defensive back line, the four defenders, almost seemed to be more willing to shoot than the offensive players at
Yeah,
times. You see Jack, even Olivier, Kai, they try to take shots. I think tomorrow that's going to be important for them to do. I don't think they can rely on players like Leon or Ali to do that. Until Mikael comes into the team and becomes that threat to constantly shoot and score, and until we get to know more about Carranza, I do hope that the back four take it upon themselves tomorrow to be that offensive force that we know they can be. Because,
yeah,
let's just be honest. We saw it as the season went on, especially Jack Elliott, how much better they were on the offensive push, not just simply defenders. So for me, I love that. I love what you're saying, the confidence to go in there saying, we're not going to be afraid to shoot like we were last year. For me, what I'm saying, the mental lapses. But another thing I'm looking for is for that defensive four who've been playing together for now so long to continue where they left off at. You
Yeah.
know, because for them, they're the ones who you have the most confidence in tomorrow morning. I mean, at least for me, and obviously Andre Blake. But I want to see Olivier take a shot on net. I want to see Kai at least have a shot or two. And I really, really would love to see Leon Flock take a shot on goal.
Yeah.
I think just for his confidence alone, I don't care if he makes it or not. Get a good shot on goal. Get that confidence. And sometimes just knowing you can take a shot and make it on target is enough sometimes to kind of get your momentum going. We saw that last year when Jack McGlynn came in for Jose in the Chicago match. He takes 3 shots, and you can see the confidence kind of like he got more into the match. He got more involved. That's what I want to see from Leon, and hopefully Ali as well. Um,
Yeah.
Now, in terms of the formation, do you think it is the standard diamond? I know there's some speculation that it might be a Christmas tree because of the
Um,
lack of forward depth. And you
yeah.
mentioned Quinn Sullivan being a bit iffy up front. Do you think he goes back to the 4-3-2-1?
I could possibly see it. I think. Yeah, I can definitely see it happening. I mean,
Yeah,
because
me
again,
too.
you don't want to. Again, we haven't seen Carranza, but obviously, I think Corey Burke, and you don't really want two big guys up front. Again, you sort of then you run into the trap that we saw last year of having
Yeah.
Casper and Corey sort of stood up front, and both players not working with each other and struggling to feed off each other. So again, it might mean Carranza is obviously a more agile player, but I think it when you stick two big men up front who are very similar, who have sort of similar styles, and it's not always the best pairing. I mean, obviously, again, we haven't really seen enough Carranza to make that sort of point. But I guess if the way Jim speaks about, he's going to be the sort of player that's going to hold up the play, get the players involved. That sort of is what Corey Burke's main role in the team is. Um, but yeah, I think it's going to be. I think I can see it definitely being the Christmas tree. Just so, you have a bit more, you have more creative depth in the team. You're not solely relying on Daniel himself. I mean, if you had two strikers in attack, I think it would probably be easier to, just have Daniel playing behind them because there's more options for him to, work with. But I can, but again, the old case with the Union. I mean, a striker never one striker can never last more than an hour or 65 minutes, even whether it's Corey Burke or Sergio Santos. So I can
That's
see
true.
Jim not taking that risk and leaving Corey on the bench, and sort of perhaps if you're up big or if you're desperate for a goal, that will probably be the scenario that he's in. I can see him probably starting Paxton tomorrow behind uh,
Yes.
Julian Carranza. Or
I
Jim could completely blow up Twitter and say, "Fuck it, I'll start Corey Burke and have Carranza on the bench."
I would like so yeah, the more I thought about it, I mean, I think Santos right now is doubtful, I would say, for tomorrow's match. I mean, I don't think he's gonna play a whole lot. I don't know how 100% he is, and knowing his health history, I'd rather
Yeah.
they not push him
Oh
if
no, I
he's not
don't.
100.
Santos.
Yeah, he's
Oh
not available to go, is he?
no, he's not. No, he's fit. He's not. He's not in the country.
Yeah, okay, good. Making
No,
sure.
as I say, he's not in the country.
Right, I didn't know if he came back or not. I'm at
I
this
know.
point, I'm losing track of who's coming and who's going. But besides the point, with the limited availability at forward, I think what he's going to do is go with Paxton and Daniel up top
Yeah,
with behind Julian, which is fine with me. I actually kind of want to see that because I think that it will allow Daniel to kind of settle into the season to start off on a good note, knowing that Jameer is not there as well. It gives you an extra person to be a little bit more creative in terms of taking a shot, making some nice passes. We saw from last year with from Paxton the confidence he has on the ball. So if you do that, you would have Leon, Jose, and Ali on the three, and then the two would be Paxton and Daniel. I kind of like that personally. I think it would benefit Julian the most, considering the lack of depth, and you're not blowing him out for 90 minutes to start the year, and then put Corey Burke off the bench and kind of go with that.
yeah.
But besides that, Dave, we know what is a realistic score prediction for you.
Uh, I think again, it's not the first game of the season. You can never really predict things. I think that's the wild thing, not just about the MLS, but football in general. Like there's always thing you can never really tell. There's always shocks on the opening day of the season. Like anything can happen. So I think it. I mean, again, it's a league that loves goals. It could easily be a 5-4 game. No, we saw last year it was 3-2 between the two teams, and it can easily end up something like that again this year. Because I think it'd be interesting to see if the Union are stronger defensively, in comparison to what they were last year.
Hmm.
Because again, I think again as consistent as that back five was, they still conceded a fair amount of goals, which wasn't ideal for the team. It saw them cost them a lot of multiple games last year.
You
So
saw the Chicago game, the 3-3 Chicago game. You had three bad set pieces
yeah,
that ended up being well. They were actually they took the lead. Thankfully for Casper, he kind of forced the own goal to get the game in the draw. But you're right; they had moments where they just gave up goals. Speaking of goals, I want to hear some weird news, Dave.
go on, hit me.
So I went on FanDuel just now to look at the anytime goal scorer because, as you guys know, I'm a big gambling person. So I want to read you the favorites to score tomorrow. Okay, tell me how much this makes any sense. Sergio Santos is first at plus 190. Mikael Ua plus 190. Corey Burke plus 190. Carranza, Sullivan, Paxson. You want to know who's above Alejandro Bedoya to score a goal? Brandon Craig is up there at plus 350.
Ah, good
Jesus,
old bookmakers.
Jesus Bueno is at plus 500. Jesus Bueno has better odds to score tomorrow over Jacob Glesnes. I'm just throwing that out there. So if you want Glesnes to be your goal scorer tomorrow, he's at plus 700. Even Cole Turner has better odds to score
Jesus,
tomorrow over Jack Elliott. I'll never understand. Um, I'll never understand why FanDuel does that, or even the sports books do it. They put in people who, like at last year, Elsinio or Davo. They would say, "Oh, Davo's more favored to score than Quinn Sullivan," and that
yeah.
didn't make any sense to me. So
I sort of feel like they do it based upon the position of the player as opposed to
yes, I
where
agree.
they are. So it's just all pot luck. I think most of it's pot luck, and yeah, I wouldn't trust whatever they say. It's sort of probably not real representation, but I think again you'll probably get a closer line once the starting lineups are out, and it's confirmed that Uar and Santos both aren't available.
Hey, listen, Jose Martinez plus 1,300 to score a goal tomorrow.
Yeah,
Does he start the year off with a banger?
lump it on.
Might as well. You know what? If anyone's going to score tomorrow to start the year off, it should be Jose Martinez from 35 yards out. An unprecedented, unnecessary goal to to come in and start the year off the right
It's
way.
sort of
I'll
like
play.
him shooting from an unnecessary distance, and you'll sort of hear the, oh yeah.
I'm doing it. I placed a bet on it, so it's on. It's
So
on.
you'll sort of hear like the crowd groan when they see him setting up to shoot, and sort of hear that loud groan. Oh no! Then sort of watching the ball crash into the net. Go, yeah, we always
Yeah,
believed in you. We always believed you, Jose.
I would be shocked if he scored within the first month, but at the same time, oh, there you go. Eric says after 10 shots in the river. Okay, so 10 shots into the river and then he scores a goal. I like it. I'm not opposed to it. I think eventually he's going to score. So why not do it tomorrow? Start the year off on a good note.
Yeah,
And I placed the bet. So if you want to take a long shot bet there, Jose Martinez to score a goal. I saw someone earlier on Twitter posted Daniel Gazdag to score a hat trick was like plus 1,200. So if you want to get wild with some of these bets, please go online and oh no, it was plus 10,000 for Daniel Gazdag to have a hat trick, and then Carranza was plus 10,000 as well. So if you're feeling lucky tomorrow, if you want to put some money down, these goal scorers, they will make a huge payout for you in
I
that
think.
regard.
Well, let's have a look at the Union, like the chance of Union goal scorers here. Corey Burke's the favourite in the
Yeah, I
UK.
know. Oh, in the UK, that's right. So people then couldn't tell by Dave's beautiful accent. He is not from here. So who's where does Daniel Gazdag sit on that list for you, if you have it in front of you?
He's a fair way down. He's well, obviously our odds are different, but it's 5-2. I think it's plus 350.
Hmm. Decent
Um,
odds, Dave. I'm just saying.
obviously Sergio and Uar. I think unless the team hasn't ruled Uar and Santos out for the game, I think they're most likely not going to feature. But the team hasn't ruled them out, so I guess it has the air of uncertainty to NYCFC, Minnesota United, and who they're actually going to have to deal with. I presume it'll be Carranza or
Yeah.
you know,
Bet wisely if you're going to bet one of these things. Make sure you know
yeah,
the rosters before you put it on, because I see people doing all the time. Oh my God, look at this line. Guy's not playing. So be careful with that. But again, there's a lot of good ones tomorrow. If you heard it earlier from me, my same game parlay from DraftKings was the Union win Carranza scores, and you had an over 1.5 goals was a plus 235 payout. So again, if you're looking to bet the games, I bet every single game just for the hell of it. Why not? But Dave, tomorrow 1 p.m. I just got my credential today. I will be there. I will be in the press box. So if anybody's out there sees me, say hello, please. Dave, I believe you'll be watching as well, right? You'll be good to
Yeah,
go.
watching the game. Yeah,
Awesome. So again, final score prediction, and then we'll wrap up the show. What are you thinking?
yeah. I think they'll come out. I think it'll be a tight game. I
Me
think they'll
too.
come out on top. I think it'll be 2-1 to the Union.
2-1. I like that. I'll go with 1-0. I think Andre Blake has a big game tomorrow night or tomorrow afternoon. And tight one though. I don't think a goal is going to be until maybe the 60th, 70th minute. I think it's going to be a tight one for most of the game, as Dave said. And then maybe Carranza puts one in the back of the net to help me win this bet.
Yeah.
But anyway, guys, tomorrow, like I said, 1 p.m. Next week, we'll come back before the Montreal game to do another show. We'll preview Montreal. We'll recap this past match that happens tomorrow. But your Philadelphia Union are back at it. Eric just posted a comment. Let me pull out my glasses because, as you guys know, I am blind for the most part. 3-1 Union. I like it, Eric. Let's go. I will hopefully
Positivity.
see you tomorrow. Positivity. I know Eric's in 140, I believe. So if you see him there, say hello. I know he'll be chanting loudly. But Philadelphia Union start their MLS campaign tomorrow afternoon, 1 p.m. We will have complete coverage of the match as well as the post-game press conference via me and Dave on Twitter.
Yo.
Dave's Twitter, Dave GFC Miller, mine, Embraer1323. Have a great weekend, everybody. Dave,
Go Union.
go Union.
Goop.